talk is about animals today and what I've learned from them. And it's summer, so hopefully we'll have some fun as well. Why not? This whole year, in Science of Mind churches across the globe, we've been talking about living everyday wonder. And this month, particularly the month of August, we've been talking about nature. And so we get down to this week, the furry, the fuzzy, the slimy, the scaly, everyone else. Hence our affirmation today, I embrace all of life, including the fuzzy, the furry, and the tiny. See, we live on this earth, and I know you've seen the pictures of the big blue marble or the small blue marble, depending on how you look at it. And that is our life. That is where we live and move, and that is where this breath we breathe is absolutely perfect because of the air that we have on this planet. And on this planet Earth, we are living, breathing, but we're not the only ones. See, we are living as one. And so, are we in harmony with the planet? Are we in harmony with nature and all living beings, including ourselves, but all living beings? See, if we truly believe that God is all there is, and then let us live in a way that reflects this truth. And so we move from just saying words to understanding how this truth shows up and making it a daily sustainable practice to be at one. And so this month, our invitation is to explore and deepen our connection with God as everything and everyone. Everything and everyone on this amazing planet, no exceptions. So this week we explore the wonder of nature. Let us consider the creatures that live on this planet, many of whom we've never seen, perhaps we haven't even heard of before. And just consider all the animals that live in your area, for example, from the very large to the very small. Okay, well, what have you noticed already today? Perhaps you've noticed the pet that lives in the house with you. Have you noticed any others? See, animals come and go. Like in our backyard, sometimes we have deer, sometimes we have armadillos, sometimes we have, oh, those cute little skunks that walk past, a little family of skunks. Sometimes we have squirrels and we have birds. We have a pair of cardinals that live here, and although I haven't seen them this morning, we have lots of little birds that happen to like to make nests in my plant. Maybe you've got those too. So as I look around, we can see all kinds of animals. And so today I want to open our eyes to notice the furry, the fuzzy, the slimy, the scaly creatures that we share this planet with. For example, today I spotted an albino Dalmatian. It was the least I could do for him. And so let's have some fun. Here's a story. A little turtle begins to climb a tree slowly. After long hours of effort, he reaches the top, jumps into the air, waving his front legs until he crashes heavily into the ground with a hard knock. And after recovering his consciousness, he starts to climb the tree again, jumps again, and knocks to the ground heavily. The little turtle persisted again and again, while a couple of birds sitting at the edge of a branch watched the turtle with some distress. Suddenly, the female says to the male, "Dear, I think it's time to tell our little turtle he's adopted." So from the turtles that we've adopted to the silly domesticated furballs we live with and love, our dogs, our cats, sometimes our lizards, our snakes. Hardly anybody keeps crickets around anymore. Well, they're around, but we don't keep them in boxes. To the creatures we just as soon admire from far, those coyotes that we hear howling, and perhaps the fellow travelers on this planet and beyond. Let's think about those. And sometimes they're funny. Sometimes they're funny little creatures. Do animals have a sense of humor? I think so. I don't know if you remember Coco, the famous sign language learning gorilla. He was a notorious prankster. Apparently, her, once she tied her trainer's shoelaces together and then signed Chase. And then there's the 2016 study out of Northwestern University that found that rats will giggle when they're tickled, as long as they're in the mood. See, they may have a sense of humor too. So let me ask you this. Do you know why hyenas are the healthiest animals on the planet? You got it. Because laughter is the best medicine. And what did the buffalo say to his son when he left for college? Bye, son. What do you call an alligator who solves mysteries? An investigator. And what steps you take if a tiger is running toward you? Big ones and quick. And what do porcupines make? What sound do porcupines make when they kiss? Ow, ow, ow. So here we are. Ether, air, fire, water, earth, planets, all creatures, directions, trees and plants, rivers and seas. They're all organs of God's body. Remembering this, a devotee respects all species. That is from Srirad Bhagavatam. So Ernest Holmes tells us this. He says, nothing is more apparent that humans, as we now appear, are the result of evolution. But in order to evolve, we had to have a principle from which to unfold. And so since humans are intelligent, we must have evolved from an intelligent cause. And so that same intelligence that created us, created the stars, the galaxies, the planets, created all of life on planet Earth. See, humans have believed that we're the only ones conscious and intelligent on this planet for many centuries. Over time, humankind has learned that other creatures possessed different levels of intelligence, which, maybe we attribute it to instinct, maybe programming. Only recently have we studied and investigated behavior, intelligence, communication, and consciousness in animals. See, we forget most life on planet Earth shares similar DNA, and it comes from a common source. And most animals are social creatures, and they share many common traits with humans. So humans are linked with the rest of God's creation. And so we need to examine our beliefs, our misconceptions, our biases, so we can truly embrace this oneness with all life. Chief Seattle said this. He said, what is a man without the beast? If all the beasts were gone, men would die from a great loneliness of spirit. For whatever happens to the beasts also happens to man. See, we humans believe we are the most intelligent life form on the planet. The reasoning is, well, humans are best at what humans do. So we must be the most intelligent species. Ducks can't write poetry. So in this logic, it's like if no other species can do what species A does better than species A, then species A is the most intelligent. But is this true? That is the question. In the August 14th, 2022 Science of Mind Daily Guides, written by Dr. Ken Gordon, he writes about this inner knowing. One perfectly sunny day, without a cloud in the sky, I saw the most remarkable sight. Two large king snakes were 6 foot up a date palm, just hanging out. They were easy to see, being black and white and maybe 4 feet long. I knew they lived in our oleanders where they caught mice and gophers, but we rarely saw them. About 2 hours later, the driveway was under a foot of water. A storm had blown in and dumped a huge amount of rain. So, from a pristine sunny day to the storm of the decade in less than 120 minutes, the snakes knew it was coming before there was any physical sign of it. They have that innate inner knowing. He goes on to say, we have the same ability, but we don't pay attention to it. We can rekindle that knowing. And what it requires is slowing down and listening to our own innate voice. So there is infinite intelligence also in the animals, in the rest of the planet in so many ways. In his book, If Nietzsche Were a Narwhal, Justin Gregg writes this. He says, non-human animals get by just fine on learned associations. They link actions with results without having to understand why something is happening. Humans, though, are why specialists. We need to look for causal connections. And this leads to incredible achievements, but also some bizarre practices. We live in just a fascinating universe. And at this point, I would like to share a few things that I learned when we traveled this year to the Galapagos. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to share my screen and we'll be able to show you a few things that we saw. So starting with what I learned from the furry, the fuzzy, the slimy, the scaly, and the tiny, or what I learned on my summer vacation. So the first thing I loved was this delightful idea in one of the places we stopped. They had this huge signage. Everything changes. Everything changes. Nothing is permanent but change. Ernest Holmes tells us, he says, nothing is permanent but change, and the infinite intelligence can never be caught in anything it does. What it does is express its being in the moment. Tomorrow it may do it in an entirely different way, but always in accord with a fundamental harmony. So I looked to see what else I could learn from the animals. And here's one thing I learned. Let's gather together. These are actually marine iguanas, and they are on a sidewalk outside our hotel. They're gathered together, and they're laying out flat so they can soak up the sun's ray. So let us gather together. Another marine iguana, be adaptable. This is the only lizard in the world that lives and forages in the sea, actually under the water. So this guy's on the land, on the beach, where I could take a picture, but they actually eat off of the rocks underwater. Be flexible. These guys are flexible. You might notice a little red coloring in there. See, most of the year, they're black. But during the mating season, they change colors. On this particular island, they change to a red and black. On another island, they change to more of a turquoise and black. So let's be flexible. And then look a little closer here. This is a lava lizard, and ordinarily they're quite black. This guy, you can see his head is a little dark, and the rest of this skin is being shed. So usually you see them on the dark lava, but in this guy, he's on the sand and he's blending in perfectly. So let us look a little closer and go with the flow. These are golden rays. They are swimming along the mangroves, and there's actually hundreds of them, and then they're in schools, and they stick together and they go with the flow. just how they glide along. What a great way to go through life, gliding along. Form community. These are sharks. They are white-tipped sharks. This picture was taken off the back of the boat, and you can see a few of them really well here, but there were hundreds of them. So they notice where there's food and they go there, they congregate. They're all around the rocky reefs, and these are about 5 foot long, and there were a lot of them. So let us form community. That's what we can learn. And here it is. Don't be afraid to stand out. This is a Sally Lightfoot crab. They were all over the rocks, every place we looked. And one of the first things that we saw when we got off the plane and got onto the boat were these crabs. And this one, these are a pair. And so I say, make friends. See the blue on this one. So what these guys do is when they first are born, when they hatch, they are black. Do they hatch? I don't know. Anyhow, they're black and they hide in the rocks really well. And as they grow, these are about maybe 12 inches across. As they grow, they develop their color and their shells. And then what happens is the back of the shell splits, they crawl out. Now, if in this time they have lost a leg, when they molt and regrow their body, they regrow that leg. So it's good to have friends. Ah, and then have a party. Let's have a party. These are all, you can see a lot of crabs on the rocks here, these big lava rocks. One of the things, the Sally Lightfoot crabs were named after a dancer because they dance. They jump from rock to rock. They're very agile and they can go in all directions, all at the same time. So it's very, very fun to watch them. One of my favorite creatures. And here we are. This is a penguin. Penguins we think about as being at the South Pole and in Australia, tip of Africa. These are Galapagos penguins. They live farther north than any other penguin. And they're not very big. They're only, this one is probably about maybe 10 inches tall or something. And he's on the rocks. We also saw them swimming in the water and they are, diving off and they're just very cute little guys. So dress for success. Be unique. Okay, this is the famous blue-footed booby. Can you see his blue feet down here? She's got a couple of chicks right here too. There are blue-footed boobies. This is what we learned. Red-footed boobies, and another booby which I could never understand the name of. These boobies live on particular islands and they group together. It is one of the things that most people want to see when they come to the Galapagos are these blue-footed boobies. So be unique. Meditate more. This is a waved albatross, and they're known for their flying abilities. They don't land for years. They fly in the ocean. They don't land for years, but when they do, they come back and they find their mate, and they mate for life. And this one I thought was particularly peaceful. Step out. This bird is stepping out. And what a wonderful reminder to us to step out into the possibility. These oyster catchers were nearly hunted to extinction because of their feathers, and they've stepped out. And there's several more around this one, but I thought he is a specific example of stepping out. Be watchful. These penguins are wonderful. He is looking out into the water. This was actually, he's on the boat that we were on, and he is checking things out, about to make a dive. There was actually two of them. There's another one over to this side of it. Oh, pelicans, pelicans, pelicans. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Pelican. Yes. And this is one of my favorites. These are the pelicans at the fish market. And these pelicans are responding to the fishmonger who has a piece of fish. But this is just a delightful thing to watch the pelicans. So, very good. All right. Oh, and make a home. There are many kinds of Darwin finches in the Galapagos, and this one has made a home in the cactus. They use the seeds from the cactus and from the nectar of the flowers and for the shelter they provide. So make a home. Let's all get along. On the first day we're there, we went to the iguana park on the mainland in Ecuador. And these iguanas are just walking around in this park and they are having, they're just, they're cool. All right. So this one has a pigeon perching on him. There were also some turtles in the pond next door. But this iguana just made me think of, let's just be cool. Let's just all get along. And the message from the dolphins, have fun. Doesn't this guy look like he's having fun? These dolphins, sometimes they have a permanent residency there in the Galapagos, which is off the coast of Ecuador. And some of them also migrate through, but there can be big schools of dolphins here. Cherish family. This is a small um, sea lion and his mom, and she's relaxing on the beach, probably after coming back from hunting. And then she found her little cub, I guess they are, and they know the sounds of each other, so they can find each other even if a beach is crowded with sea lions. And get comfy. This one is comfy. This is right near the fish market. And the sea lion in the Galapagos have the lowest metabolic rate of any sea lions. And they sleep a lot. And this one has found a bench and has made himself at home. And size is relative. Yes, we saw the giant tortoises. In fact, the Galapagos is named for the tortoise. We saw several of them. This was a rainy day, so he looks a little shiny. These were all the males that we saw because the females had gone further upland into the highlands to lay their eggs, and then they will travel back in a couple months and rejoin the rest of their people, the rest of their species. Remember to pray. We were at the place where we saw the giant tortoise and this little tiny praying mantis landed on my hand. And so it reminded me of the great and the small in prayer. Oh, and my final one. This was on the way out from the airport. Give hugs. This guy was leaving the Galapagos at the same time we were. I'm sure he had a wonderful time. And he's one of the fuzzy ones. So I just wanted to share this last picture of our home away from home. This was our yacht that we were on. There were 13 passengers and probably 11 crew members. And so we had this cove all to ourselves for our time, and it was quite delightful. So that's what I did on my summer vacation. And I learned to stick together, to form community, to meditate more, and to give hugs. So the trick is remembering it. See, if we pay attention, animals can teach us really important lessons that we may forget in the haste of our normal lives. But just interacting briefly with them, we receive such valuable knowledge that we can't always learn from our fellow human beings. Tricia McCaw says this: animals are the bridge between us and the beauty of all that is natural. They show us what's missing in our lives and how to love ourselves more completely and unconditionally. They connect us back to who we are and to the purpose of why we're here. So, as Lisa sang earlier, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Our planet is awakening, and we're being called to raise our own consciousness. And if we're to make a change, we must be willing to look beyond ourselves, to examine the facts, to be willing to learn and to grow. And we must take action where and when we're called. And so, what is this action? Well, let us turn within now and go within to that innate intelligence within. And so, just getting comfortable where you are and just imagine yourself. Imagine yourself on this planet just as you are. And then imagine yourself in nature. Whatever natural spot calls to you at this moment. It could be a jungle, it could be a forest, it could be the ocean, it could be by the side of a river, a meadow. And we're going to ask some questions now. And just note your reaction. Just how do you feel about animals in general? How do you feel about dogs? How do you feel about cats? How do you feel about turtles? And how do you feel about dolphins? What about wolves? How do you feel about tigers, snakes, insects? And then let's delve a little deeper. Ask yourself about the underlying belief. Maybe it came from the big bad wolf. Maybe the Garden of Eden and the snake. Maybe the idea that dogs are unconditional love. And is there more that you can learn? So listen for what Spirit is saying about our animal companions on this planet. And how is it that you would like to express that? How would you like to be the one that you've been waiting for? How would you like to put it into action? Hmm. And so now just begin to come back into your physical body, into this space where we are. And just notice that there's an opportunity here, an opportunity to reach out, to be truly a companion, an advocate for those animals that we have adopted, those who live in our home, those who live in our yard, those who live beyond any place that we will ever be. And use it as an opportunity to educate yourself and others and see what it is that is yours to do for our animal companion. And so as we do this, Let us just remember one life. There's one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. That life is Earth's life now. That life is the life of all animals on this planet. One life, God's life, perfect. And so I let that be, and so it is.